Hello kids, how are you doing? Let's do your car quiz. So we all know the V8 engine that most popularly is known of being the first one is probably the Ford Flathead V8 in 32. Wrong. Next, there's some confusion. Some people think that the Cadillac one was the first one. It was the first one probably mass produced. Well, that's not necessarily true either. The very first V8, hold on, why am I opening my hood? Well, I'm going to get the hold on. I'm looking for my hood prop. Hood prop, where are you? There you are. Oh, look, I gotta put a bottle in there. Oh, 4-speed. Right there. It's a 4-speed right there. 4-speed. Suntac. The dash part that Mikey loaned me. Good job, Mikey. Old 500 steering wheel. Superior. Cool. And my epoxy board. Okay, so what am I doing right now? I'm opening the hood. Oh, please. Oh. In case there's something you don't know, that's the hood latch. Right there. Why is the chrome shinier? Well, your good buddy George, my good buddy George, harassed me so much about everything being so bad. He even gave me some, what's that stuff? Not steel wool. What is it? It's like steel wool, but it's got the blue SOS pads. I know I SOS'd up the scoop. It's kind of shiny. Don't like it. I SOS'd up these, just touched them up, and the windshield. I did do the windshield because the SOS pad actually polished it, and now it's a lot easier for those videos. But here it is, V8. Chevrolet's first one was in 55, 265 cubes. Ford was 221 cubic inches. Flathead V8 in 32. 221? 239. 239 maybe. 255 was the Merc and the trucks. 221, I don't remember exactly. Cadillac was bigger, but 1914 I think, or maybe later. But there was a guy in France, Leon Levis. I don't speak French, but it's like there's an L and a V and an E and a bunch of S's and something like Levasseur or something like there, Levassas, I don't know, something like that. But he made the very first one. Actually, he came up with it and invented it and put it into production. Well, it had it going. It's aluminum block, steel cylinders, 437 cubic inches. Overhead valve, individual cylinders, direct injection, well not direct injection, manifold mechanical fuel injection, made 50 horsepower. And the very first one he actually got into a plane or whatever was like 02-ish, 1902. He had it going like in the late 1800s, like 1890 something. He got the first one going, but he had them in like boats and airplanes in the early 1900s, like before 1905, like 03, 04. It was called the Antoinette, which was his daughter's name, and it set lots of records. That thing was like a race motor. They used them in offshore boats for racing. That was where they really took off. And then airplanes. In fact, somebody souped one up, got it close to 100 horsepower back then, and set some record with it. Flying something. Some record between some place and some other place. Anyway, I don't know. I think it might have even been in a helicopter or gyro. I don't remember all the details, but that's pretty cool, right? Yeah, I always thought that stuff's neat, but he was the first one that gets credit for it. In fact, he died in 1922. His engines were still being produced. He died like 10 years before Ford pioneered the Flathead, so he never got to see his dream come out into reality. But Mercedes also had one at the same time around then in the early 1900s, and they made some horsepower too. They were running pretty good, but I mean, fuel injection has been around for a long time. That's not fuel injected. Your other car quiz for today. Well, let me just say, before we get into a new car quiz question, that this has traction problems, which is pretty fun. Now I can get dumb. I'm going to have my wife video me one time doing like a burnout like we did out here in the street. We'll do another one where she's videoing this thing so then I can put a proper 11s down the street instead of a one-wheel peel, which I got some People made fun of me for that, which I made fun of myself for, which is fine. So, the number 2 question I was going to ask has all right along the same lines of history, but who came up with the Hemi? Who was it? Who had it first in the automotive industry? Had the Hemi first? Was it Ford, Dodge, or Chevrolet, or GM? That's your questions. Do I have a story time having to do with that? Kinda. When I was a kid, we had a place called the Harrah's Automobile Collection in Reno, Nevada. And William Harrah, Bill Harrah, used to, you might have seen in a lot of car collections or other museums all over the United States, they'll say this car was on loan from Harrah's Automobile Collection. In fact, he had the majority of the Tuckers, I think, for a while. He kind of had what Jay Leno has going on. Back when I was a kid, it was down in Sparks, and it was on the, it was along the railroad, and they were, he had four or five of those giant warehouses along the side of the railroad tracks. So they used to like fix like locomotive repair shops and stuff, and steam stuff was going on. Like they ran that when they were running like the Truckee Railroad and all that stuff, when it was really going. Like the railroad was really going in Nevada. And so he bought those and they were gone. And he had one wing. One of them had like a bunch of motorcycles. One of them I remember had a Ford tri-motor airplane in it. And the other ones were just all sorts of different cars. You know, James Dean's Merc was in there for a long time. They still have it. I think that's the main car that was in the it's in the museum or credited for the museum. But his actual Merc out of Rebel Without a Cause, that black car. In fact, I have a story about that particular car. Is that the story I'm going to tell you today? Negative. I'll tell you the story about Bill. So, William Harrah had a thing about wanting his vehicles to run and drive just like Jay Leno does. And so he had a shop. He had cars out in the middle of this, like, where the way the warehouses were stretched out and the way the courtyards were. He had projects that weren't finished yet, and they had like repair shops, and I think he had 6 big warehouses. Maybe more than that. The collection was probably, if you've been to Reno and you've been to the Harrah's Automobile Collection right now, it's probably a quarter, maybe less than what it used to be. When I was a kid, it was so big, it took all day to go through. And at any point, at any time, any of those cars could be driven. In fact, that's what Bill liked to do. He would literally walk up to someone, like he'd cruise around, walk around all of his cars, and he'd see somebody, especially kids, young boys or whatever, or girls or kids that liked old cars or were into it. He would literally go up to him and say, "Hey, do you like this car? You want to go for a ride?" And then he'd have his guys come and pull it out, and they'd have to move the other cars around. And then all the aisles, if you ever looked, it was all like it was like concrete, like polished concrete, big old like shop. So it was like where this car would be sitting, this car would be sitting, this car would be sitting. There would be like this aisle, and everything was roped up so they could pull off, and the aisles were wide enough for a car at least and people to walk by. So he could get the cars out and just come down the aisle. That's just the way it was. It was just a concrete warehouse floor. Nothing real fancy. He did have some displays, but most of the cars he could drive, like a Tucker or anything. He would just pull it out and then take kids around his big complex. He just would go for rides. And he was a super neat old guy like that. And then when they sold Harrah's to, who was it? The kids sold it when he died. When Bill died, they sold it to, I'm going to say the Hilton Group, but that may not be correct. And the agreement was, at least that's what we all heard, was that they weren't going to sell any of the vehicles. And you can guess how well that went, because the thing is reduced down so far. But it used to be massive. It was like one of the best collections, I think, in the United States. It was huge. It's been gone that size since, oh man, I think I was probably in middle school or the end of grade school. So I was like probably 11, 12. It was definitely before I got my driver's license that they sold it, I think. I have to check, but it's kind of a sad story. A lot of the cars are gone. They did a bunch of auctions and stuff, and it's really sad. But the Merc's still there. James Dean's Merc's still there. I'll tell you about that story. I actually got to ride around in that car way a long time ago. Mohair is real itchy. Anyway, yeah, that's it. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Happy Saturday. And this phone is actually working pretty good, so I'm going to keep doing it as long as the storage doesn't die. I have to kill the videos right afterwards, or else it just loads up and then it cuts off like the last video, which is just like what my old videos used to do. So going back in time. Anyway, here we are, kids. This is what's going on. Car is working good. That water wetter stuff, snake oil. I'm sorry, kids. It doesn't do. I think in like a laboratory setting in a like a dyno room or something like that, or like an optimum, I don't know, where the cooling system was so big. Could you drop it any cooler? Does it help better than just water by itself? Absolutely, because it lubricates the water pump, and you got to have that. Does it do much for cooling? I might have seen 10 degrees, maybe, but the difference in weather and how fast I was driving and how much load I put on it, this thing, it doesn't care. Head temperature is head temperature. When you're making heat, combustion, you're making heat, and you're at RPMs, it doesn't matter. Under load or not under load, heat is heat. Like you're making combustion. And so that's what's going on. I'm noticing the blower is still leaking. So obviously my quick little fix here that I thought I didn't do it. So let's let the pressure out. That's why it leaked. So it's pre-sealed. So I'm going to have to pull this whole thing off and reseal this right here. I didn't do it. I also noticed that my pinion bearing seal and my transmission output shaft seal are leaking. So I have both of those in the car right there. I'll put those on tomorrow or the next day or whenever, probably Monday. Other than that, all in all, I got some header bolts to retorque. Maintenance. Probably, I might read, what do you guys think? Would you guys be interested if I rejetted this car and showed you how to tune Carter carburetor? Same thing as Edelbrock. Would you guys be interested if I showed you like some little tricks and tweaks? I think I mentioned I would do it before, but I don't know if anybody really wanted to know how to do it. So I can show you how to do it on the car with it running and how to figure it out. If you guys want to get into some fine-tuning tricks with your Edelbrock. Yes? No? Let me know. I will talk to you guys later. Happy holidays or whatever it is. Halloween. And no, I'm not wearing a mask. I don't need one. See you guys later.